republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Good morning, everyone. Call the meeting to order.
Don't look like it.
Looking for approval of the agenda.
So moved.
Second.
There's a motion and a second to approve the agenda. All in favor, signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Approval of minutes from February 10th, 2025.
I thought they read well. I'll make it. Are approved.
I will second that.
I'll abstain.
All abstain. All in favor, signify by
Here.
saying aye. Oh, that's true.
Table the meeting minutes until next week since we don't have
Yep.
a quorum for the meeting
Yep.
for the minutes.
Okay. Item number 1, fiscal year county library funding requests. Good morning. Good morning. Can we do introductions real quick?
You want to hit the button on that microphone? There you
There you go.
go.
So my name is Wendy Johnson. I am the library director of the library. And I'm Suzanne Overding, and I'm the director of the Glidden Public Library. So I think that we got a letter sent to you guys when we respectfully put on the budget, and we also did a graphic that shows our library values and return on investment for each of the libraries in Carroll County. So that would be Carroll, Coon Rapids, Glidden, and Manning. And it kind of shows the calculations that we use at the bottom. So these numbers are based off of using our physical circulation as well as things like program attendance and computer use. So last year, we came to the supervisors and we requested funding. I think this is the 3rd year now that I've been doing this. I'm not necessarily sure exactly what figures you guys are looking for from the libraries when you determine funding amounts. So I did bring our annual report survey. This is a report that I present to the library board. I present that in usually August for just the Carroll Public Library section. And then I presented again in January with our comparison to peer-sized communities. These are the same peer-sized communities that the city uses when we do comparisons at the city level. And then I also present this same annual report to the city of Carroll when we do budget requests from them. So for public libraries, we have funding sources. We get funding from the state. We get funding from the county, and then we get funding from the city. The Carroll Public Library is also living, we get funding from a small amount of funding from contracts for library services from other towns. So looking at our budget for fiscal year 26, the Carroll Public Library is requesting the funding amount from the fiscal year 2023, which would be $44,000. The other libraries in Carroll County have requested just the same amount of funding as what it was last year. So for our budget fiscal year 2026, looking at our funding sources from the state, we get 0.78% of our funding comes from the states. 6.2% comes from the county. 0.84% comes from township contracts and just miscellaneous amounts. So that would be like paying for a damaged book or paying for copies, faxes, things like that. 0.93%. And then from the city of Carroll, we get 91.2% of our budget. If you look on, it would be the last page of, would be the 4th page, the last page of the circulation from rural population from rural Carroll County. We get about 66% of our population of our checkout, or our circulation of physical materials is for people within Carroll, and 12% of that is rural Carroll County residents. If you add in the rest of Carroll County, it's about 24%. So together between Carroll and Carroll County, that accounts for 90% of the circulation. We do not factor in the people who come to library programs or who use the computer, who use our online resources. Do not separate those out between whether they're from Carroll or rural Carroll County or somewhere else.
Mine would be at 16% on our roll. And that's pretty steady, even though I've increased the number of checkouts, it's still about 16% come from, county. Or rural, rural.
You have. Oh, I also gave you a copy of, our long-range plan for the Carroll Public Library. We do accreditation through the state every 3 years, and we're required to have a long-range plan. For this year was the year that we've had to redo that. So we have rather ambitious plan, I think, but it is manageable, and we want to do a lot of different things at the Carroll Public Library, whether that is kind of rearranging some of the resources that we have to make it easier to access. Right now, the large print, you have to walk through the library to get to the large print. We want to move that up closer to the front for the people who are using the large printer normally. The older population who necessarily don't have what to walk all the way through the library to get to those materials. Some things are offering new book displays or offering different resources in the library. We're trying to increase our Spanish collection in the library in the next couple of years.
As for county libraries, we really try to share amongst each other. These one of the first places I go to get books if I don't have them in my collection, and I know she uses us or the other ones too, if she needs to get books from different places, and we're also going to try and share some program resources too to help make funds go further.
Anybody have any questions?
Tell me again those percentage, what you, from outside of the city, use your services?
For our budget. So
No,
it-
what the usage, you,
usage. So it's 66% of our physical checkouts are from Carroll. 12% is rural Carroll counties, and another 12% is the rest of Carroll County.
and you said yours was,
Mine is 16%. I don't have the rest of it broken down. Percentages.
okay, that's fine.
Wendy, I just, for a quick question, I think I have this counted right. In your long-term range, did I count that you have 10 staff in Carroll, correct? And that includes the 2 pages?
That includes the pay.
Okay. Are they all full-time?
No, there are 5 lists that are
5 full-time and then the other 5 are considered part-time?
Yeah.
Seasonal?
part-time. Yeah.
Part-time.
So the part-time is, so like we have one person that works 6 hours a week. We
Okay,
have one person that works 3 hours a week. Just kind of depending on their schedule, but then they work more during the summer.
gotcha. So probably more considered seasonal than a traditional part-time.
Right.
Okay.
Right. I think the person who has the most number of part-time hours has 10.
Okay. Well, thank you. I don't have any other questions besides that. Does anybody else have any
I don't.
questions?
Gina, right?
No.
First year.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Item number 2, review fiscal year 26 salary spreadsheet and county fund balances. So we put this on the agenda because every month Courtney sends out our fund balances. And
We're
we've
gonna
got
go over that first.
I think it would be best to do.
Do
that
the fund
first.
balances first. Okay.
So she has, we have 2 of them, one from January of 24 and one from January of 25. So Courtney, do you have anything jumping out at you as far as all these appear to be very healthy?
Generally pay attention to our levy funds are ones that were components, so like the general basic supplemental and rural funds are the ones that have kept the closest. You can see that general basic balance is significantly higher this January than it was last. But that's kind of reflected when we started talking about budget and how we were sitting better in that fund than we had planned. So
I mean, in the general basic, we're a million ahead of, or a million more than we were last year. Secondary roads, Zach has spoke before about how our fiscal year ends during construction season, which is tough to budget.
Well, and I think that like that Manning project get pushed back and that's just first being bid as far as the resurfacing. It's like,
So Zach, is that number not correct then, just because of projects?
It's correct. It's good. Projects have been put back.
That's what I mean. That's what I mean. That's money that's accounted for basically, right? Yeah.
Every flow, I mean, if you look, like when we went through the fiscal year 26 budget, projecting what we were gonna have for our balance. And the fiscal year 26, we're back right in the spot where we need to be. It's just a matter of getting the project done and
You-
there's still things about hanging out there for even this fiscal year that we haven't purchased yet.
Okay.
so Courtney, this general basic, is that million, is that the probably increase in revenues and probably reduction in expenditures? Am I right? Is there any of these, my question is there any expenditure that got put off that still would be need to come out of this yet that you're aware of? Okay, that's what I wanted to know. Okay.
Any projects that we had budgeted for example, down in the basement, that was all coming out of local option if we chose to.
But so we're gonna end up going into fiscal year 26 with a lot of money in reserves.
Factor that into the budget, you know, when we were talking about it this year, you don't want to be too aggressive and say you're gonna have, you know, you're gonna collect 100% of what you planned on and spend 100%, because it never happens. But I tried to be, I tried to view what we were sitting at now and see where we would be at, not so much where we thought we would be sitting at now. So that's why when I had said, this is what our general fund looks like, it looks a lot better than the year before, it's because we have new money.
And typically that's something that we don't have for budget. We always take out reserve now because of these situations.
Well, and in the past, before the House File 17, we had a better balance in that general fund. We would be able to lower our levy to use up some of those reserves, but we have to be careful now, because if we do that, then the next year.
We'll get penalized.
And we might.
So in essence, they're making us be bad actors.
I guess for fiscal year 26, last year we just paid for our liability insurance for the building. And the vehicles and everything, we paid that out of supplemental because the general fund didn't have the funds available. Well, this year, we're doing the exact opposite. We're paying for it out of the general fund because there is a surplus, and that's, you know, that's about $500,000 for that expense, so. We have to be creative, I guess, and try to utilize the fund that's in the best shape to have those expenses come out of. The supplemental fund is the one we can have the levy do what we want. So the only way we can give any tax relief would be to lower the expenses in the supplemental fund. And which I think in the first projection I gave, that's what we were doing.
Does anybody have any more questions on this before we go into phase 2 or the salary spreadsheet for fiscal year 26 that Courtney has prepared?
I don't have any questions on the fund balances that you send out, but I do appreciate when you do it. It's nice to see
is.
where we're at throughout the year, so I appreciate you taking the time and doing that.
On revenues and expenditures. I mean, it goes both ways.
Mhm.
So now if we want to go to the spreadsheet with the different options on it, Courtney, if you want to try to walk us through that. I can try, but you'll end up,
The other, all of the departments that have salaries. So we have the auditor, treasurer, attorney, sheriff, reporter, veterans affairs, conservation, home trades, jail, ambulance, communications center, environmental health, general services, which would be like courthouse or ZAC. Data processing or IT, GIS, public health, flip over, and roads. So I, just have one column that's the salaries for the year we're in now. Just to kind of have a starting base, it would make it easier to figure 2.5% on where we're at. There's a few departments that might have some differences if they have an employee that's not like 100%, for example, like in the jail or something like that. They're working that way up to 100%. So then you have your FICA and IFRS on the fiscal 25 salary. Then I was told to use 2.5 FICA and IFRS along with that. So you can kind of see what the totals are by department. And then down at the each end of each fund in the blue column, it talks about what the ending fund balance would be at the 2.5%. And then we have different options. Because if you remember, we had people come in and not be at 2.5 for various reasons. So there's option 1 and option 2. And I tried to put a little detail in there so you could see what their options were. So the general fund, you can see if at the 2.5, we estimated 1.3 million left in the fund balance. You went with option 1, it'd be about 1.2, and option 2 would be kind of getting down there at 965. Obviously, depending on what you guys decide with salaries, you know, you may select a department and give them what they were asking for, but maybe not give other departments what they were asking for. So it's kind of hard to do every single
Exactly.
scenario.
You'd have 59 scenarios.
But I mean, this gives you an idea of where you would be at. I suppose you probably start at the 2.5 and then maybe look at the different options there or whatever. So the general fund supplemental, the auditor's office has one employee that comes out of there. The attorney, sheriff, jail, and the ambulance, their FICA and IFRS comes out of there. So that's why that looks a little goofy. Again, the supplemental fund is the one you can actually adjust the levy if you want to. I made a note there that in this year we did contribute $300,000 in lost money into that fund to lower the levy. So below there, I have what the fund balance and the levy would be with no contribution. And then there's also one with a contribution. So you can kind of see last year we were at basically 50 cents. See with the different options, we'd be over that. But if we actually put some money in there like we did this year, the levy looks pretty good in comparison.
So all 3 scenarios are still less than last year, even if we add the $300,000 from local option.
Got basically some benefits and then one employee coming out of there, so
Right.
doing different options doesn't affect it as much as it does in the general fund. Rural is the sheriff, so the rural fund wasn't looking great as far as ending fund balance, so we did move 1 deputy and 1 vehicle to the general fund. Since the general fund looked healthier than the rural fund. We kind of do that back and forth each year. It seems like we look and see, last year we had another one in rural and now we're kind of moving it back. So, but that gives you a good ending fund balance by doing that, with either option. The 2.5 or the additional ask. Secondary roads is a little harder to do that on because their salaries are part of all their functions. So I just use the numbers that Zach had given me. As far as an ending fund balance, it kind of depends on what you guys decide, but you can see the total cost between the 2.5 and then the other ask, which isn't significant. His ending fund balance is what he said he would be when he presented his budget. So obviously that would increase if you chose not to go with that additional. So I guess if you look at the difference between 2.5 and then what they're asking, that would increase their fund balance if you guys chose that.
I have a question. So last year we took 300,000 of loss, right?
Yes,
And this year, our lost is down $1,253,695. 13 cents. Why is that?
Let's do the
Okay.
So a lot of those.
Remodel.
300,000 we took out.
Would we usually average around 2 million on that?
Well, I mean, usually I thought it was like 1.5. I
Okay,
mean, that's kind of what it ran, but we collect about 700,000 roughly in there every year.
okay,
So even.
So
if
we get 1.4 million, but 700,000 goes straight into the rural.
yes. Yes,
So I mean, if you didn't spend a dime of it, you'd increase it about, $700,000 every year.
yep,
So if you say you're gonna spend 300 to offset the levy, you're still gonna put another 400 there. And I don't know of any projects from 26 that we're planning on spending.
And
thank you. I just wanted to.
our repayments from Maple River, Mount Carmel go back in loss too.
Correct.
So, and we used to have that corn processors.
Yep.
Project, that's all paid up right now.
So on the spreadsheet, I just have a couple questions, and I'm sure I'm gonna get more clarification on Thursday, but I just want to make sure this is spelled out for me. Courtney, when you came and presented, you did your presentation with 2.5, correct? With the option of potentially 4%, right?
You guys.
4%, okay. And then the treasurer's gets a little bit different because there's different options for each. There's not an actual percentage without looking at our spreadsheet, it gets a little tricky.
It is.
And then like the sheriff's asking for a 10% plus staff. Recorder's asking for a 15%. Those are your elected officials. The supervisors have opted to, and this is again, only there's been no motion or anything like that, but opted to not do a pay increase, correct? Are those, is that,
That's.
am I reading that right? Okay.
I did not include the supervisor on the spreadsheet, but yeah, I tried to, with the exception of the treasurer, because she had a couple different options.
Full.
And it was really part that put that in the little columns for you guys to.
So next week or Thursday, is each department, specifically elected officials, going to come out and say what percentage they want? Because that was never really clarified during pre-budget meetings.
Are you referring to the recorder?
No, any of them, the sheriff, treasurer, recorder, auditor. I mean, I don't know if an exact percentage was clarified when they came for their,
Oh, yeah.
I had this sheet that said-
I'm just throwing you in the elected officials bunch.
Sitting here and saying, I'm kind of a repeat of what I provided to you guys at the first meeting. That's.
So there'll be some clarification. Is that okay? That's all I'm asking.
Well,
No, Courtney, I wasn't saying you didn't, but
and I did visit with Scott last night, I think, and I talked to you too yesterday. Next week, I think the agenda set up. We need to discuss elected officials first.
Yeah.
Because a lot of those other offices are affected by what elected officials get. So I think we need to do that first.
if they have
Especially the
deputies.
treasurer.
Yeah, because she has so many deputies. But Courtney, you got two too.
Auditor. Deputies.
But keep in mind too, with not having the compensation board, we have a little bit more control of how this happens. It doesn't have to be a spread equally across. I do also want to point out, and I'll say this again next week, so this will be a repeat. Bike and IPers are a benefit. And so is insurance. The county pays 80% of the insurance. 85%. So when you're looking at your salary, so like for instance, the supervisors, it's 36,000. If we want to be transparent, the true number would be FICA, IPers plus insurance. So you're looking at a supervisor, for myself. I don't know what I do for FICA and IPers, but I'm just gonna guess $15,000 additional above the 36,000. That's the package. So that's what the taxpayers are paying. So I think that, I know you guys aren't gonna love this, but that's the true image we need to show the taxpayers. That is what they're paying for, not just that salary amount.
It is included in here. So when we total them up, it does.
I mean, and the insurance does change because everybody has different policies, which is fine. And something we may want to look at the future is covering the employee and not as much on family plans.
Well, I've said this, if they're wanting money, we're gonna have to look at some of these benefits.
Mhm.
It's either, you can't have both sides of the same picture.
And I'm not saying that our employees aren't great. We have wonderful employees. We have great elected officials. It's just sometimes we have to do the tough job and really hone in on the budget and the finances. And
And that's why we send out that letter to the employees, what their total package is, to try to make them aware of what that total package is. And it's not just.
well, I
their
don't know if it's
salary.
doing any benefit because if, and I'm not trying to throw anybody under the bus, but these percentages are pretty hefty for pay increases. I mean, I think it's actually absurd, but that's just me. And maybe that's still the mentality it's gonna get cut in half. I don't know. I don't love anything that was presented on some of these. It's not fair to the taxpayers. I mean, most of our jobs are considered a servant to the taxpayers. We're providing a service to the taxpayers. And since when did we start needing to be paid six figures to provide a service? I don't know. I have a hard time with this one.
That was part of the purpose of this whole presentation, was a warm up for Thursday, is to see the actual costs.
Well, I think everybody knows how I feel. And I'm fine with, I mean, I know we take heat from it, but it is what it is. And my elected position is to look out for the taxpayers.
When we say the county provides 85% of your insurance, it's not the county, it's the property taxpayers that provide it. We refer to the county a lot, but it's really taxpayers.
You're right, but thanks for the clarification. I just sometimes don't think the full picture is presented correctly.
So we can all study this, and Thursday is when we'll be making the decisions. Thank you. for
Anybody
your-
else? Is it just me? Okay,
I think there'll be more said Thursday.
All right, thank you. No action on that. That was just a review.
No, thanks for your.
I
No,
actually
you've got-
super
I like
appreciate
Yeah,
this
you've
because
got
it does
spelled
break
out
down
very
FICA
well.
IPers, the percentages. No, this is,
It shows everything.
so
Alright.
thank you for the extra effort.
Yes, thanks, Courtney. Moving on, item number 3, consider zoning commission recommendation on rezoning parcels. I think there's 7 of them here. 3 of them are in the previous Carroll 2-mile, and the last 4 are near the Iowa corn processors plant in the previously Glidden 2-mile. And they're listed here, and I think Sarah's here. I mean, I can name the owners or the parcel number and the owners of each one if you would like, or Sarah, do you want to come up and discuss so the zoning commission recommended that we keep the same county or as similar to county on rezoning these.
Yeah, so when we looked at the 2-mile area, practically everything was ag except for the parcels that were listed. The recommendation was to make them as close to the current city zoning, if allowed, to kind of avoid having excess meetings for them. Because when you rezone something, they would have already had these. With these agreements being 40+ years, maybe a prior owner did it. So then I would send out, if it is adopted to where we would zone them as close to possible with our county zoning, I would send letters to those parcel owners to see if they agreed with that zone. And if not, then they would apply to be rezoned to something else. And then it was kind of suggested to waive that fee of the $50 rezoning for them to kind of help with that, because we're trying to make them as close as possible. And if they don't agree with it, then, we would like to have them have the opportunity to have their public hearing.
So the next step in this process would be a public hearing.
For you
Correct.
guys to set a zone for those areas, kind of our default de facto zone is the ag. Because we're a county and most of our stuff is ag. So when it's not zoned ag or it's, zoned industrial or whatnot, people do apply to have that rezoned through us.
Could you tell me what those property owners are according, you got them here,
They
A,
do. Quant Auto Salvage is the first one. The second one is Vincent Family Trust. The third one is Bomb Over, Michael P. 1/2, Bomb
Yes,
Over
second.
Neil.
is what? Bomb over
Bomb
what?
Over, Michael P. 1/2, Neil Bomb Over. And those are the three that are in around Carroll.
And
Then
the other ones are around,
the Iowa corn processors and the railroad tracks and its last name Klein, first name Jewel is 50%, last name Klein, James M is 50%.
okay,
Next one is O'Brien, Dustin L, and O'Brien Denise A. Next one is RWC and MTC Family LLC.
Okay.
Another one, RWC and MTC Family LLC. So that's all 7 of them. So I guess we need to, Courtney, do we need a vote on this, then set a public hearing, or do we do the public? Okay,
How's these property owners been?
I sent out letters. I haven't heard anything back, but I didn't say what we were doing or not doing just yet, just that we rescinded the 2 mile. So,
so as part of the public hearing notice, these property owners and their neighbors will all get a letter.
when we get that date set, if you guys are setting a date to make it something other than just ag per our ordinance, then yes, it'll go to the adjoining property owners and the property owners what their proposed zoning is, along with the property owners. I will be sending out a list of our zoning districts. So that way, if they have something different in mind, then they can kind of bring it there. We would have a zoning commission meeting. It would come back to you guys for final say. But that will all go out to adjoining property owners as well as the property owners in question. I just don't have a date to really give them right now.
I just want to make sure that we're providing more information than not, just so that
Yeah,
they're
yeah,
fully
absolutely.
aware.
Yeah,
And
absolutely.
More time than not, too.
Yep.
Yeah.
I prefer more than 30 days, but
So
I apologize. Part of the zoning commission was to give them a year to change that without the fee being, and that way they had plenty of time.
Yep.
So that way we can have our zoning ordinance set, and then they could still have that year to decide if that's the correct zoning for them.
So are you thinking like 90 days out, Mike, or what do you think?
yeah, 60 to 90 days is, I think, is more adequate time than 30. If someone needs a contact
an attorney
attorney
or
or whatever.
in
they-
family, I see there's a
Yes.
couple trusts.
Yep.
Um,
So is there, Courtney, do you have your planner as far as picking a date?
Well, I mean, 10-20, so, and not less than 10, not more than 20 days, so I have March 10th, but if you guys wanna push it off,
it's looking April.
it's fine. But we won't be posting anything, so we can't.
You
For-
can't Post
for
it more than
coach.
20 days.
Yeah.
14.
But so would the letters go out before we publish it, or are those two
Uh,
concurrent when they go out?
They can go out,
You just
but
can't
we just
post
can't
a
put anything in the
meeting.
paper or put anything on the door until I believe, is that
So
correct?
notification to the landowners and adjoining, or just the landowners?
I think I can notify all individuals. I will double check to make sure I don't have to do it twice because I don't know if I have to still do it 10 to 20 days out once it's in the papers. Do you know that off the top of your head?
I'm not sure.
I'll have to double check that if I'd have to do it twice there.
So April
14th.
April 28th.
28th, yeah. Yeah.
So you'll be sending,
Be good if that's done right
Yes.
at night.
go first thing. So Sarah, the letters then to the 7 property owners will go out this week?
Yeah.
Okay,
And then the adjoining properties as well.
so do we need a motion for a time and date?
I will go ahead and make a motion to set the public hearing for April 28th, 2025 at 9 a.m. for the rezoning of parcels
In the previous 2 miles with.
in the previous 2 miles with Glidden and Carroll.
Second,
I'll second that.
we have a motion and a second. Set the hearing for April 28th at 9 a.m. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you.
Thanks, Sarah.
Item number 5, manure management annual updates. T and J Cattle Company number 1, section 5, Grant Township, no changes. Twin Hills LLC East Site, section 32, Pleasant Valley Township, change crop rotation or optimum yields, use manure analysis. Item 6, committee reports.
I go first. The only thing I want to report on is conservation highlights. The city of Breda is looking to run an 8-inch water line underneath the Saukville Trail, and they're gonna run that as a regular permit. Hopefully get approved at their next meeting. Sac County Conservation Board requested to increase the trail pass fees, and the board suggested to go from $15 to $20 for the trail pass. With the vandalism at Great Western Park, they're gonna put outdoor security cameras in. They also are going to apply for to fix some stuff up, but they're gonna wait for the timber grants to come out in July and apply for that. That's all I have.
And the
Highlight.
person, I saw there was an arrest for the
Yeah.
vandalism. What'd they do? Something to the boat dock?
Boat dock, they knocked stuff off inside the bathrooms, off the walls, and
That's a nice shower house too.
yeah. Have nothing this week.
I can go next.
Oh, no, I don't.
We have a meeting Thursday.
Thursday.
Last week, Wednesday, at 6:30 in the morning, February, board meeting at the recycling center. I did go out to secondary roads after that and looked at the claims that were paid on the 10th. Talked to Zach about drain 77 and about the proposed crane crossing the hard surface roads for the wind turbine projects. I also looked at the courthouse claims from the 10th. And then at 6 o'clock last Wednesday was the Carroll County Joint 911 Service Board and Carroll County Emergency Management Commission meeting. Friday, I reviewed the spreadsheet that Courtney presented today and played with a bunch of different scenarios. This week, today at noon, CCGP board meeting. Thursday at 10 o'clock fiscal year 26 budget work session, which we are all going to be at. And Saturday is the legislative forum at the Breda Shelter House. That's all I have.
I can go next. Last Thursday, I had, I participated in the Highway 30 Coalition meeting by Zoom. And then Friday, new opportunities. They had board of directors orientation for the new 2 supervisors from Calhoun and Dallas County. Also on Thursday, I was supposed to have a CCGP executive board meeting. They got canceled due to illness. And then I did several phone calls with Zach on different things in regard to roads and stuff, and then had several conversations with the auditor, and also had some phone calls from constituents. And then this morning at 8:30, they had rescheduled the CCGP executive board meeting at 8:30, so I sat through part of that. This week I've got the newspaper and radio. This afternoon at noon, we got CCGP board meeting. And Thursday, we have our regular budget board meeting. And Friday, I have Yes Center at Cherokee. That's my week.
I can go next. This past week and kind of this morning, last week I had the newspaper radio. Then had some conversations with Zach out at secondary roads and then did field some calls on roads. And last night I had Wesco over in Denison. If anybody wants to see stuff going on, they have a concern right now. There might be some legislation being talked about down at the State House about taking beds from a 4-bed or a 5-bed home to a 4-bed home, which would be detrimental to Wesco. And I tried to explain that to Bill last night, that sometimes things happen because there's bad actors out there, and some people that run a business, obviously it's a nonprofit, but they have to take the hit as well. So it's not happy about. I reached out to Craig Williams and hopefully gonna try to have a conversation with Craig or Jason in reference to Wesco and go to bat for them as well. Not wanting to have that change. And then I had a safety meeting this morning. We did a courthouse walkthrough again. We'll be implementing some different procedures. And I would like to put on the agenda, the updated safety policy manual. Do you guys want that next week, or do you want to wait a little bit, get past this budget and then be able to take a look at it? There's just some minor changes we made.
It can be next Monday.
Are
It's
you
not
guys-
Thursday, but
Yeah.
Monday, yeah.
Are you guys fine with that? Have you had time to look at the email from Jeff Cullen?
Yep.
Okay. Because before we can present it to the actual safety committee, it needs to be, changes need to be approved by the Board of Supervisors. If you want to put that on for next Monday, that'd be great. Thank you, Courtney. And then, Thursday, I just have the budget meeting for the rest of this week.
Anything from any of those in attendance? I'll take a motion to adjourn.
Moved.
Second,
Motion and second. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
I
Opposed, meeting adjourned.
do want to take note, though, that the meeting on Thursday starts at 10, not 9.
Yep.